Those hostages aren't back. I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them.
In this video today, President-elect Trump drops a nightmare warning on the Middle East. Also, the House just passed the Lincoln-Riley Act. And Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, claims that he's shifting the platform to free speech. These stories and more in this video today, but let's start with Trump doing what he does best.
I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was, and many people are killed. They're no longer hostages.
Now, that is Steve Woodcock that is next to President-elect Trump. And I really just have three things. Number one, strong leadership is what gets results. So Trump should be this firm about it. Our enemies need to know what the ultimate consequence is when you do murder an American citizen. And of course, America deserves justice. Because we do have Americans who are currently being held hostage and Americans that were murdered. Again, they need to know what the ultimate price is for doing so. And Trump is a master at negotiating. He's not going to tip his hand, obviously, to the enemies, so he's not going to explain everything he's going to do. And again, that's an example of strong leadership, which actually takes us to this next clip, where a reporter asked Trump the same question he did last time at the previous Mar-a-Lago press conference about preemptive strikes on Iran. Just check out Trump's reaction.
The last time you were here, you were asked a question about the U.S. possibly launching a preemptive strike on Iran. You said you wouldn't answer that question.
On who?
Obviously, on Iran. The U.S. launching a preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities.
That's it. I don't talk about it. It's a military strategy.
But it is a legitimate question.
It's not really, because only a stupid person would answer it. Look, it's a military strategy. And I'm not answering your questions on military strategy.
Okay, so just think of the contrast. We're going from our president and vice president saying the words "don't" as if our enemies are going to be threatened by that term, to the president-elect Trump clearly stating, hey, all hell will break out if they don't do X, Y, or Z. That's number one. And number two, why would I ever tell a reporter what our military strategy is? Only a stupid leader would do something like that, and he is dead on. You don't tell your secrets, especially when people's lives are at stake. I just find that to be so idiotic. And why does that reporter, why is he so obsessed with it? I just don't get that. Now, I think I can reason with the idea that maybe he's only doing that for clicks, of course, which actually takes us to this next story where he responds to this reporter asking him about pardoning January 6th participants. And he gives us the classic answer that I think we all can agree to. Watch this.
More than 140 police officers were injured by rioters on January 6th. Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
Well, you know, the only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt. She was killed. And there was actually somebody else that was killed, also a MAGA person. But people don't give it 100% credibility. I'm going to find out about it, and we're going to find out. But Ashley Babbitt was killed. She was shot. Should have never been shot. She was shot for no reason whatsoever. In fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd was made up of a lot of different people, so we'll see. But I will tell you this, the person that was killed was Ashley Babbitt. The other thing is, when they talk, you know, there was never charges of insurrection or anything like that. But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history where people went in as insurrectionists with not one gun.
Yeah, so one of the things I really want to see in this administration is someone do an actual documentary exposing the other side of the truth, okay? Because we know the Democrats have obviously had the monopoly on that for quite some time, no longer, because Ashley Babbitt seems to always be forgotten what happened to her, and she should be remembered. In fact, did you know that they introduced a law in Congress to put up a plaque of these 6 police officers who committed suicide? They did not die in the line of duty as they want you to believe, of course. And Speaker Mike Johnson, to his credit, has been very reluctant to actually put that plaque up. He's rejected it multiple times. And this is about getting down to the facts, not buying into leftist narratives, of course, about January 6th. So good for him for reminding people exactly what's going on here.
And let me tell you, the people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home for hunting and for shooting and for entertainment, a lot of good reasons. But there wasn't one gun that they found. And why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? You know, they know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is. The status of the FBI has gone down so far, and the status of the DOJ, or as I call it, the Department of Justice, it's the Department of Injustice, being laughed at all over the world.
Yeah, so I really believe the FBI, the Department of Justice, should be used as a case study for not just Americans, but people all over the world. Because when you start to abuse your own authority to get an outcome that you believe personally is justice, even though by the law it is not, and you go after people for political reasons, you are actually doing more damage to the system than the person you're going after. And I just think that has to be a case study for people to look at. Now, of course, CNN did have a negative reaction to this because they hold on to every single word that comes out of Trump's mouth. They're so triggered by the language or ideas that he expresses when he speaks. And here is Dana Bash doing just that. Check it out.
Answering questions and giving us some new information about what he intends to do, or at the very least is not ruling out when he takes office, including not ruling out a military invasion to conquer Greenland, the Panama Canal, and perhaps the annexation of the country of Canada.
So all I have to say about this is the exact same thing about the DOJ and the FBI. The media should be used as a case study too. When they lie, when they're triggered about everything someone says, all they're doing is just damaging their credibility in the end. And that's why they are where they are today. Now, here's another one, actually, a case study. What happens when you open the border and you have zero restrictions that could be enforced and you don't provide the resources to border agents? You get people who are murdered like Lincoln Riley, which is why the House just passed the Lincoln Riley Act today. Let's go ahead and hear Fox News report on that story.
The House has just passed the Lincoln Riley Act. This was a bill, of course, that was named after the nursing student who was killed by an illegal immigrant while jogging on a trail at the University of Georgia's campus. Let's get to Chad Pergram. He's got the very latest on that for us live from the Hill. Hi, Chad.
Sandra, good afternoon. Well, this is the first legislative action by the Republican House of Representatives. They just passed the Lincoln Riley Act, as you alluded to. The vote on the House floor, 264 to 159. There were 48 Democrats who voted yes. When they passed this bill in March of last year, there were 37 Democratic yeas, so this goes up a little bit. This bill would mandate detention for illegal immigrants arrested for minor crimes. We do expect this to go to the Senate. There's bipartisan support for this in the Senate. John Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, he has signed on to this bill as well.
The flip side to this entire story is that there were 159 Democrats who actually voted against this bill, which you just have to shake your head and ask the question, why would they do something like that, knowing what the mandate is from the American people at this point? But, you know, some of them, they're still stuck in their own ways. Some of them think that some of the language in the bill is not to their liking. And let me show you an example of what I mean.
48 Democrats joining Republicans and voting in favor of this legislation, far more than there was last time. This bill requires federal immigration authorities to detain illegal immigrants found guilty of theft-related crimes, but it was the subject of heated debate earlier on the House floor.
Today, the name on the bill is Lincoln Riley. Tomorrow, it will be another victim of these policies, another son or daughter of a loved one. Thank God the American people have done exactly that. They have given this Congress and this president the tools and the mandate to secure our borders and remove every person who has broken into our country by violating our laws.
This bill would upend 28 years of mandatory immigration detention policy by requiring that any undocumented immigrant arrested for theft, larceny, or shoplifting be detained even if they are never convicted or even charged with a crime.
Now, clearly, Jamie Raskin is one of those Democrats who voted against this bill, and he is as deranged as you can get. He's so hung up on the language, but I think it's pretty clear. I mean, if you are an illegal alien, undocumented, you crossed the border illegally, you didn't come in here through legal means, and you commit a crime, I don't care if you're convicted or not, you should be detained. It's just that simple. And I don't know why that is so hard to, I guess, accept. But again, Democrats historically, they're soft on crime. We know this. Now, here's a few more details about the bill.
This time around, it basically mandates that ICE has to issue a detainer. That means arrest any person who's in the country illegally or undocumented that ends up committing a crime like burglary or theft, as Laken Riley's killer was. They were arrested for that, ultimately released, and then he ended up killing Laken Riley. It also empowers state attorney generals to be able to sue federal officials who actually don't follow that mandate.
Now, you guys may have heard earlier in that clip that is somewhat of breaking news. Senator John Fetterman is going to sponsor this bill. He's a Democrat, of course, in the Senate. And the bottom line here is, and correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers, just on top of my head, I believe they need 60 total votes at the Senate level to get this bill actually passed, which means what? They need 6 or 7 Democrats to clearly sign off on this. And right now, I'm only hearing about 1. So we shall see what happens. But I'll tell you what, if this bill can get passed within the first 30 days of Trump's obviously being in the White House, I think this says a lot about the intention that they are setting when it comes to border security. And it also is going to speak to how serious does Congress take the mandate from the American people. And at the end of the day, 2026 is going to come pretty quickly. I'm talking about the midterms. And so it's bad for business if they blow this off. Now, speaking of what's bad for business is the censorship that Facebook clearly was all about. And now it is being reported that Mark Zuckerberg is switching up his policies to make Meta more about free speech. Let's hear that story.
All right, buckle up. We got a Fox News alert moments ago. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announcing they are changing their policies to focus on free speech. CEO Mark Zuckerberg saying this.
We're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
Wow, this is a big deal. Changes include ending its third-party fact-checking program and lifting restrictions on topics such as immigration and gender identity.
Well, is there anything more important to talk about? Also, until now, Meta used automated systems to scan for violations, but found they resulted in too much censorship. So, from now on, they'll focus on tackling illegal and severe violations like terrorism, fraud, to name a few.
Now, bottom line up front, this is a clear business decision, okay? Because the results say otherwise, all right? They've been all over censorship at Facebook, and according to Mark Zuckerberg, the government is what forced him to do it. I don't really buy that, but okay, you're the owner of the platform. Give them a middle finger, keep it moving. I mean, you are worth that amount of money, but fine. But let's actually take a look at this post by Benny Johnson, because I think he laid out a very key point about why they're actually doing this, and he provided some numbers. He put this up, this was almost 20 hours ago as I'm doing this video. He said how Facebook destroyed their creators. Not long ago, Facebook was a booming platform for creators to connect directly with their audiences. Then one day, Meta decided to destroy their creator ecosystem and end free speech. Here's my analytics on October 2023. Notice anything. And he shows how clearly everything dropped off after a certain point. There were even other individuals that said that around October of 2024, the same thing happened. A lot of their analytics dropped off as well. The destruction of our pages perfectly overlap with the Biden administration's illegal pressure on Meta to censor Americans. Facebook surrendered to Biden and killed the core essence of their platform, throttling entire audiences in a way that defy all authentic user behavior. A lot of users went from Facebook to Rumble. So Rumble has actually been one of the biggest beneficiaries of censorship, okay? And then also he says this, Facebook has not only undermined its own future, but also betrayed the users who built it. I love a good redemption arc. Lord knows I've needed plenty of redemption myself. But until the censorship is broken at Meta, creators will not trust the platform. And I'm in that camp. There's a reason why you guys aren't going to see me on Facebook or Instagram, because I just don't trust the platform. And I hear too many times conservatives being censored on there. So, we'll see. We'll see maybe 90 days from now what's happening on those platforms. Now, here is Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer. Yeah, what a title, right? Who was on Fox and Friends to explain why this is happening.
These big changes as of 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
If you're making big changes, does that mean you were doing something wrong before?
Look, this is a great opportunity for us to reset the balance in favor of free expression. As Mark says in that video, what we're doing today is we're getting back to our roots in free expression. There's a number of changes we're making, but if I could, and just highlight three.
Yep.
First is, as you heard, we're eliminating the third-party fact-checking system. Well-intentioned at the outset, but there's just been too much political bias in what they choose to fact-check and how, so we're just scrapping it entirely.
What do you mean? You mean you?
The fact-checkers.
You set up your... But they're yours.
Well,
right?
So the idea was they're independent fact checkers, but they've just been too biased. And so what we're going to do instead is adopt a system like X has of community notes. So we're just going to rely on our own community of users to provide people more information about what they're seeing. And we think that's going to work.
All right. Well, let me translate a few things that he said. Number one, no, they're not getting back to their roots. They're getting back to making money, right? And trying to grow their user base. I'm sure probably somewhere in the back end, they started to notice how most users just are not on Facebook anymore. They don't use it like they used to. Why? For a multitude of reasons. One, of course, is the censorship. I think Facebook was not really part of the political conversation or discourse over the past couple of years, for sure. X has absolutely been there every step of the way. And number three, if you're a business, why would you run ads on Facebook if you know politically it's not going to work out, or every little keyword gets banned? I remember being on Facebook as a business and they banned my ad account so many times. So I want to know more information about what else this entails. But on the surface of all of it, I'm not stupid. This is a business decision. X has definitely left them in the dust.
I think it is a smart business move, and that's one of the reasons why he's doing it, because he's putting ideology in the back seat now rather than in the front seat. We're driving not only his company, but a lot of companies, including banking companies. They're getting out of it because they were losing money because of that. Also, the UK and other countries around the world are now putting people in jail for using their product. So their product is being killed by people who are against freedom of expression, and so are the customers. So he sees who the enemy is now, finally.
Now, the other part of this story is the fact that there was a recent announcement that Dana White has now joined the board of directors for Meta. And clearly, Dana White is America first as it comes, and he's also a free speech absolutist. We all know that about him. So maybe we have to get some credit here. Maybe we might need to take Meta a little bit more seriously as far as their intentions go. I just think it's just a smart business move. Why would you continue to run a platform that contradicts the current administration that is Trump, when you also have heavy competition? You've got Rumble out there, you've got X, you've got TikTok, you still have YouTube. And so Facebook is not that dominant force it used to be. Because politics has dominated the internet for quite some time now. And people around the world, everybody and their mom has an opinion. And why would you go share that opinion on Facebook? I don't see the reason why at this point. So maybe Dana White joining the board of directors is a big deal and might actually impact some change here. And Dana White said in his caption here, "I love social media and I'm excited to be a small part of the future of AI and emerging technologies." And of course, we also know Meta is not just social media. It's way more than that. Ben Shapiro said this is a sea change in the direction at Facebook. Zuckerberg spelled out his vision of free speech at Georgetown in 2019 to the consternation and shock of the left. Facebook then proceeded to cave, engaging in mass censorship. The tide has turned good for Zuckerberg. Now, one thing I will say is that I think there is a free speech bubble for every prominent organization. I'm just reading this tweet from Ben Shapiro. Even he has a line at the Daily Wire where they're not going to pass just because of free speech. Now, all we have to do is look at Candace Owens and Brett Cooper as an example of that. And so all these organizations, as much as they want to claim they're all about free speech, there is a boundary for all of them. It's just different. To what degree, we don't know until obviously we get to see it play out in their arena. And of course, you're going to have these Democrats and these people on the left who are clearly liberal and progressive say things like this. They want you dumber. They want facts to be subjective. They don't want you educated. Okay, right. We get more educated and we get more knowledgeable and we're more up to date by being on X than listening to CNN and all these other fake news media organizations. So I don't know where you're going with that, Bakari Sellers. And as you guys can see on the screen here is Mark Zuckerberg. He did shoot a video. It's about 5 minutes long. I don't really think it's worth listening to. I've given you guys what the bottom line is here. But he did release this video detailing a lot of that. Now, one of the key things that came out of the video was that he was going to move his content moderation team from California to Texas because he wants them to be in a different culture. Again, I just think he's just doing this for business reasons. I don't really think he believes this. He's going to have to truly show us. And the one way he could do it is, why don't you unban every conservative that you banned off the platform? Why don't you do that? Bring them back first, and then we will take you seriously.